What's up, everybody? This is Chris Nichols, and you're listening to an episode of the Nichols and Dime Show featuring Thomas Hopkins. Enjoy. You don't know what I'm about to do. Big explosion, get away right now. She's heating up. What's going on, Thomas?
Hey, no, Chris. Good to see you.
Good, yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you having me out here in the Cays near Coronado.
Of course, man. You're always welcome.
So, guys, I just want to introduce my good friend here. I'm here with Thomas Hopkins today, who has been a longtime friend of mine, my family's, and a mentor to me since I was in high school. Let me share some of his background. Thomas is most recently the Chief Marketing Officer at Perfect Storm Studios, which is an up-and-coming esports gaming platform for the metaverse. He's been a serial entrepreneur throughout his career, where he's founded numerous different companies along the way. More recently, he's held marketing leadership positions at companies like Masterclass, Lyft, and Penn Interactive. He attended Stanford University, where he played water polo and also represented the United States on the men's national team. He also spent time in his athletic career playing professional water polo in Budapest, Hungary. He was born in Hawaii and grew up in Coronado, California, which is actually the exact opposite of me. Being born in Coronado and growing up in Hawaii, so probably part of the reason why we get along, and now is a father of 3. So Thomas, again, really good to see you. Thank you for having me.
Of course, man. It's appreciate the intro. Hearing that, it makes me feel like I've got a lot to live up to. You know, that's my past, and it's like, oh man, what's in store for the future?
It's amazing, man, and it's also amazing how the past few years have almost made us forget about how fast we all were moving at one point in life. And we're still kind of trying to figure out how to get up to full speed again, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's something that's a common theme, I think. I don't know if this is the case as much for women, but today I think men, it's actually very hard to figure out like what you want to do and what you want to be doing in life. And I think that's like a constant theme with me. I go through stints of 3 to 5 years where I'm very focused on something.
Yeah. And
then I'll go for a couple of years where I'm just lost.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I can talk a little bit more about that, but you know, it's just part of life. And I think it's just with, you know, every stage in life, you kind of have to reevaluate things, and your metrics for success or your North Stars just kind of change. And
yeah,
I think I'm going through one of those phases right now.
Yeah, no, it's so true, and that's interesting. I do want to hear more about that. Let's just first talk about how we got to know each other. We have so much in common. You know, we've had similar backgrounds with water polo and where we've lived. So I remember meeting you. I think it was a water polo tournament officially in Hawaii. I was in high school. You were much farther along in your career. I know that I knew who the big players were, right, for the U.S. Mm-hmm. And I looked up to you. I looked up to Jesse and all these other guys on the team, especially guys who shared the background with Coronado. And of course, your parents lived down the road from my grandma's house, so it was really cool to meet you finally. And I'd heard all about you from my family, so I think that's really how it got started. And then we we really made some big progress from there and getting to know each other.
Yeah, I vaguely remember that meeting you in Hawaii, but my real experience of like really getting to know Chris was his senior year in high school. I was playing professionally in Hungary at that point, and I put together a pro water polo experience program where I invited high school athletes to come out to Hungary to see what it's like to be a professional athlete. It was fun to have Chris out. He came out for, I think it was like a full week, maybe 9 days.
Yeah.
And yeah, it was just, I would say that was he stayed with me, lived with me, along with 2 other athletes. And then there were also 2 more athletes that stayed somewhere else, but still came to all the trainings. But that was when I really got to know Chris, or really got to know you. Yeah. And that was fun.
That was fun, man, and I'm never going to forget that experience. It certainly was a time of growth for me. I was in the process of deciding where I was going to go play in college, and we had a few other guys who were looking at playing college water polo in the U.S. as well, but to get that exposure to professional water polo in the number one water polo country in the world was incredible. And to do that just in a very, firsthand experience, staying with you, training with the team, seeing the different style of play by the Hungarians, that was, I think that really gave me a lot of confidence in my play, and it changed, the way I approached the game in a bit.
I think like a constant theme in my life that whether I realized it or not, because at the time I was like, I need to make some money. But it was, dressed in the real purpose of contributing to others' lives. And by me offering that program, what I was able to do is, some of the money that was made for that program was put towards the team that I played for, as well as the other coach, my team's coach, as well as the players had the opportunity to come out and really see what it's like. I mean, I remember the first day they came, it was like, cool, this is going to be like fun training. And I think by like the third day, most of the guys, with the exception of Chris, was like, do we still have to go to practice? Training 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours a day starts to get really old if you're not a professional athlete. And you're like, I kind of came because it sounded like cool, but I didn't realize we were going to be playing this much water polo.
That's right. And I think we were all 18 years old, which, of course, in Europe means you can go out and party. And I know you gave us a bit of exposure to that night scene out there.
Yeah, and it's also when you're 18 and you're training with guys that are 22 to 30 years old, it's also a little bit harder,
right?
Especially when it's a professional level team. So yeah, it was definitely an eye-opening experience for some, but others, I think it was an opportunity to just like really see where your skills are, and then see where you could take the sport. The hard thing is that like most people don't realize is that in sports, only a very small percentage of people get to play in college, and then only even a smaller percentage of people get to play after college. And so to have that experience, it's somewhat of a privilege to see what that's like, because most people will never get there, but it's still a great experience to be able to have if you can.
Absolutely. And I actually, the way I want to do this is I want to hear about your journey from your water polo career into your actual, your more corporate and entrepreneurial career. And we'll talk about some of the more recent work you did, but I think it would be cool to just start, and I know you've had a lot of different phases in life and transitions, but are you able to walk us through each of those from the time when you were at Stanford and then going into serious water polo play and then transitioning into the corporate world after that?
Yeah, it was interesting. So my senior year in college, I finished my season and got second in NCAAs, lost to SC, I think for the sixth time that year, to get this, second place at NCAAs.
Yeah.
But finished that year, and it was weird. Once I didn't have to play, I felt, I say have to. I liked playing, but by my senior year, I felt a little burnt out. Just a lot of water polo, and it was interesting because once I finished, I actually kind of fell in love with the sport again, and it's because I didn't really have to play, and I saw that we had a really good team internationally, and I wanted to make a run for the 2008 Olympics, and I graduated in 2006, and I was like, wow, if I can make that team, we're gonna do really well, and so I decided I wasn't gonna go work. I was lined up to go work at Citigroup in San Francisco on their investment grade, I think, bond desk. And it's been a while. I graduated a long time ago. I graduated in 2006.
What'd you major in?
Majored in civil engineering.
Okay.
So when I made that transition, when I finished college, I basically was like, wow, I don't have to play anymore, but I actually really still want to keep playing. And so I made the decision to move down to LA, train with the national team. And for the next 2 years, I was basically the first alternate for World Championships, World League, FINA Cup, like all of it. And so I was like one of the last guys each time, but I was the first alternate. And in 2007, the Pan American Games happened, and it was down in Rio de Janeiro. And one of the players in like the weekend before they were leaving to go to Pan Am's, Brett Ormsby got his eye poked by one of the Mexico team players, and so I got to go to Pan Am's as one of the alternates. So
wow.
I went to Pan Am's, was an amazing experience, qualified us for the Olympics for 2008, and I was still kind of on the cusp, not really like fully in that top 13 squad. I was like 14 through 16, and that next summer tried to make the Olympics in 2008, didn't make it. Was an amazing summer training, and I was sitting there going, okay, I've spent 2 years training for the Olympics. I'm in the best shape of my life. I've like devoted everything to it. I'm not working. I'm not in school. What now? And I made the decision at that point. I was like, you know what? The best players on our team are playing internationally in some country. Once I start working, I'm probably not going to keep playing water polo anymore.
Yeah.
I'm in the best shape of my life. I might as well go and see what it's like. And so I bought a one-way flight to Budapest. And I had a general idea of like, what I was going to do in terms of playing, what team I was going to play for, and got out there. Basically, on the first day, they're like, yeah, we want to sign you. Wow. So I was in the crazy shape. I mean, I just trained for the Olympics, so I was like really playing really well. And that year, played out of my mind. I was the second leading scorer in the league.
Nice.
And loved it. But by the end of that year, I came back and played with the national team again, and I started to kind of realize that like I was going to be ready for something next soon.
Yeah.
And so I made the decision at that point to start to make the steps towards moving, like not going for the 2008 Olympics, the 2012 Olympics, and basically instead figure out what I wanted to do next. And I was a civil engineering degree at Stanford, and I knew that I didn't really want to do civil engineering. I figured that out after an internship in college. So I took the step of going to college. I applied to the top economics university in Budapest, Corvinus University. Yep. I went there, and I did that for the next 2 years, and I did it because I could play water polo, live in Budapest still, play water polo, and fund my schooling. So I did that for the next 2 years, and through that, it prepared me a little bit more to get start working. And then I kept, once I finished school, I basically went out there and I started interviewing, and decided to hang up the Speedo and trade it in for the business casual suit. But I think it was the overall theme of it was that, I knew I wanted to be in a place that I could make an impact, and I knew I wanted to be in a place that had a pretty high growth trajectory. And so I went into sales. I was looking at consulting, banking, sales, and I decided on sales. And basically, I can tell you the next 8 years of my career, I was pretty lost. Playing water polo was a fun experience. It was I was passionate about it. I had a clear goal, and when you switch to the workplace from being a professional athlete, it's actually very hard. Yeah. Because it's hard to find the thing that you feel that same passion for and same drive to wake up. So for the next 6 years, I ended up changing jobs every year. But that first year, I went into it with the same passion that I played water polo, and I did really well. I was the top salesperson at the company I was at. Made enough money to be able to buy a house. But it was definitely a tough transition.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's so common, I think, with athletes, ex-athletes, right? Whether they just played in the NCAA or whether they played professionally, and then they have to transition into more normal corporate work. A lot of people have this crisis. You even see it with athletes who maybe they're playing volleyball, maybe they're playing soccer, maybe it's not a sport where they're looking to go to the NFL, right, or the NBA. but you are required to put in so much. And I mean, certainly water polo was like that for us, right, at the Division I level. And people who get injured go through this depressive crisis, and I've seen it. And it's really tough. And I think there should be more resources out there. I think they do exist, and I think they've improved this over the years, but more resources to help these athletes transition into the corporate world. That being said, I do realize that there have been changes in college sports where now the athletes are getting paid, right? And they're able to take sponsorships. So I guess that's probably good progress for some of it. But yeah, it makes complete sense.
Yeah, I think the hard part is that, growing up, my parents always said, do what you love, find your passion, you won't feel like you're working. And, I did enjoy water polo enough to say that I was passionate about it. But one of the keys about playing water polo, the key things about playing a sport, is it's very clear rules, very clear guidelines for what is success.
Yeah.
And it's very obvious. It's super fast feedback when you win.
Yeah.
Or when you beat somebody, or when you have that feedback cycle. And in the workplace, you don't get that at all. And so what I started to really look for is that, that fast feedback cycle and those clear guidelines for success. But it took me a long time to kind of figure out what that was, and to just try lots of different jobs. So I think a lot of people, when they go from being an athlete into the workplace, they don't try enough things.
Right.
They get stuck in one role, and they happen to do well because guess what? They're an athlete that will get in and grind to be successful. And you have to be, when you start a career, you have to approach it with I would say a sense of selfishness. In the very beginning, you don't necessarily want to be athletes are great because they come in and they be a team player, but you have to come in and you have to look out for yourself. And what that means is try a lot of things.
Yeah.
Don't worry about moving up the ladder or moving up the rank system in the specific role you're in. Try a bunch of different stuff and take note of the things that you like and things you don't like, so you can design the career. You can find a role or a type of job or an industry that you really like.
I totally agree with that. Yeah, it's important. Unfortunately, I think there's a stigma that I do believe is going away, especially when you're out there interviewing for jobs and people look at resumes and they see a ton of different jobs on there. It's important to listen to the story of why they went about it that way, because I've worked for a number of different companies, but I've got a pretty darn good reason of why I've made each move, right? It has nothing to do with the lack of loyalty, right? Which might be assumed in a lot of employers out there. So I agree with that completely, not just in trying different roles, but also getting yourself in different environments, which kind of is the same thing. But perhaps working for a small startup and then working for a larger corporation, see how this system works in different ways.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the way I think about it is like, if an employer doesn't understand why you went about looking at different roles and trying different things, then it's not a great fit for an employer. Because as an employer, like one of my favorite books is Kim Scott's Radical Candor, and she talks about that the job of a boss is to be that mentor, is to be that to help their employees on whatever path they're on in life. And if an employer, if a boss isn't able to listen to that story, and be able to say, wow, like this person is trying to find what they can be passionate about, they have like the core skills, I'd love to work with them, then they're probably not a good fit. If they're looking for somebody just to come in and like, hammer nails and that's all I want you to do and I want you to like only do that, then it might not be the best fit for you. If you're looking to like see, hey, do I like hammering nails? Great, I'll come in and try that, but know that in 6 months or in 4 months I might be like, I don't really want to do this anymore.
Yeah, makes sense. So those 6 years that you talked about where you had about a job every year, how did you get into this entrepreneurial mindset? What made you so entrepreneurial during that time period?
Yeah. So this is a weird one for me. And the reason it's weird is because I think that had I not been so successful in school in water polo, I actually think I would have been more successful in entrepreneurship. It has to do with opportunity costs and risk.
Mm-hmm.
Because I went to a good university, and because I ended up, playing with the national team and then going and getting my MBA, what that led itself to is me being given opportunities for careers where I could make good money. And so the opportunity costs initially isn't that bad, but as you advance in your career, it gets harder and harder to walk away from something. And so in that first 6 years, what I did is I tried sales. And then from there, I went into sales management. And then from sales management, I kind of saw that the industry I was in the insurance industry for service industries for the insurance space. And what I saw was that, actually, Chris, you ended up being an intern there at Sherwood Relocation. Good right. Time. That was back in the nickel and dimes days.
Oh my gosh. Those days live on. This is the Nichols and Dimes show, Thomas.
Nice. Chris,
boy, oh boy. That was some times.
He did a rap for us at the end of the summer. It was pretty awesome. It was right. Rapping about the internship program, but I gotta pull that out. Somebody recorded it.
Jeez.
But after I did that, I kind of saw that the trajectory for me in the non-tech, non-finance space was relatively flat, and I'd kind of hit my top. And unless I started my own company in that space, I wasn't going to be able to be as financially successful as I wanted to be. Mm-hmm. So I made the decision to start my own company at that point for all the wrong reasons. I started in 2015. I started a company called Tenantopia, which today is called Hem Lane. The two founders that I started with, 11 months in, I said, guys, I'm sorry, this isn't for me. I brought you guys together, and I started this for the wrong reason. I'm doing it to make money. This is going to take 10 years to be really successful if it is, and it's just a grind that I'm not willing to do. I want to be able to have a salary. I want to be able to have a family, and so that's not something that I can stick to. So from there I did another company called Help Bags, which was a dog poop bag business. I did that. That was kind of my passion. So I went from, hey, I want to make a bunch of money doing this temporary housing space, or started doing this housing product. And then from there, I was went the full opposite direction, saying, no, I'm going to do something that's totally altruistic. I'm going to give 20% of every sale to local shelters, and we're going to have poop bags that are biodegradable. And so I did that with my dad. We got into about 25 stores in San Diego and San Francisco until basically I realized, wow, I could just have a normal job and I could give 20% of my salary and we'd be giving a lot more and be making a much bigger impact. So I decided after a year that it didn't make sense to keep doing that and I should go back to the workplace and get a job. And this is when I talk about opportunity costs. A kid down the hall from me that I'm really good friends with, Ali Jamal, gave me a call and he's like, hey, what are you up to? I was like, I'm selling poop bags. He's like, what? I was like, yeah, I'm selling poop bags, and I'm looking at a ticket because I parked in my spot for too long when I was trying to sell to this pet store. And Ollie was like, all right, man, stop doing that. Come into my office, see what we're doing. I need some help. I need a product manager. I think you could be a product manager. I was like, what is product management? I don't even know what product management is. Sure. And so I went over there. It was a gaming company called RockU. And basically my career really took off after that. So interviewed there, got a role there, started out in biz dev, then transitioned into product management. I was managing a poker product. From there, that turned into marketing of the apps at the company. And that was the first time that I found something that I was like, oh, I like performance marketing. I like marketing. This is something that for the first time in my career, I went from sales management to biz dev, or doing entrepreneurship, to biz dev to product management, and I finally woke up and I saw performance marketing. I was like, wow, this is something that I could do for the next 10 years. This is something that I want to be the best in the world at. This is something that I really want to pursue. And so I made that decision, and I stuck with performance marketing basically all the way till now. And that's still what I'm doing. And it took, like I said, 5-6 years to find that passion.
Yeah.
But once I found it, that's when my career like absolutely took off, because once you figure out what you want to be the best at and you feel like you have the skills to be the best at it, the sky is the limit. And that's basically what I've done. So I went from there, I went from there, went over to Rocket Games, did performance marketing there. From there, they got acquired by Penn National.
Yep.
Penn National asked me to be their director of marketing for all their digital products. So I was doing all the digital products. And from there, I went to Lyft and then Masterclass. And then, so that was basically the last, 6 years.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. So you've more recently spent time getting this experience in, executive or borderline executive positions, right? Running marketing teams, so forth, at big names. And let's talk about Perfect Storm for a little bit. Just most recently, could you tell us, were you a part of the founding team there, or did you come in early as CMO? How did that work?
Yeah, so a really, really good friend of mine, a mentor of mine actually, Bill Gelpy, he was one of the co-founders of Rocket Games, which was one of the studios that I worked for after. It was the company I worked for right after Rock U. He sold that company, and then I went on to work at Lyft, and then Masterclass, and then another company, and then basically Bill was like, "Hey, I'm starting another gaming studio, and I need some help. Do you are you willing to come over?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love to work with you again, Bill. He's like, "I think we're gonna build a gaming studio. Here are some of the things that I really want to do. I want to make an impact on gamers' lives. I want to make it a public benefit corp." And I was like, that sounds relatively close to what I would say my mission is in life. And I was like, I wouldn't consider myself a gamer. I played professional sports, but I wasn't a gamer like you are, Bill. But yeah, sure, I'll come on and help. And so my role when I started was actually the COO. So what that meant was all operational things that the company needed: hiring, setting up payroll, any HR systems. I did, and the biggest piece was the hiring piece, and it's and as well as building decks for fundraising. But the hiring piece was probably the biggest impact I had on the company. And once I did that, it was like, okay, now we got our game rolling. Now it's time to roll into the next thing. And then so that was research, making sure we're on top of the top trends. And then from there, once it was like, okay, now we're ready to build our community, I switched over to CMO to basically start to build the community to get ready to launch the game.
Wow. And so was it just the two of you? Sorry if I missed this.
So Bill, actually what he did when he started the company is he got the band back together again. Okay. So he got about 6 of us from Rocket Games to come back on and start the company together. Nice. And then we spent the first 3 months exploring different options: mobile, desktop, console, flash games. And we basically landed on doing a Web3 product, but then that transitioned again when we basically figured out that having crypto in a game doesn't make sense more than just having NFTs in the game. And so where their game is at today is trying to make an amazing, AAA style of MOBA to start with, and then from there start to incorporate the NFT ownership of assets in the game so that you can own your assets and you can trade them with other people.
Okay. So, I remember last time we caught up, we talked a little bit about your philosophy on how this type of gaming can benefit people or younger kids. That's obviously I think a pretty controversial topic these days, because I think a lot of people just don't, fully understand what Web3 is. Yeah. And 2, it's just the idea of being caught up in a game. I want to understand your philosophy, or if you can describe that. Like, why do you believe in and how this can help younger people, specifically what the work they've been doing at Perfect Storms in comparison to how opportunities are in sports today and for kids to, I guess, learn competition.
Yeah, so there's a great HBO special out there right now on, and it was published about 2 years ago now, and it basically talks about how competitive sports that we knew growing up is going away, in the sense that it used to be very accessible to kids. Parents used to be able to spend $100 for the rec soccer league, and every kid was in that rec soccer league. Then you'd spend $100 for, the rec baseball league and t-ball, and the coaches are volunteers, and the amount of money basically pays for the umpires and the jerseys, and everything's volunteer. But what's happened today is that everything's gotten so much more competitive, that any parent that has the means will pay the money to put their kid in a select team, which is, instead of it being $100 for the season, it's like $200-$300 a month, and it's year round, or it's 6-month seasons, and so if you have the money, you're like, oh well, why would I have a random dad or mom coaching my kid when I could have an ex-professional athlete coaching my son or daughter in soccer or baseball. And so that's what's going on today. And as a result, if you look at the rec programs that are out there, what happens is anybody that's in the rec programs rather than the select programs, they get left behind because they don't have the 6 months of training. They don't have the 3 practices a week. They don't have the same level of coaching. And then what also happens is that less and less kids are playing in the leagues. So what they have to do in order to have leagues is you have to combine age groups. So instead of it being like, an under 8, under 10, under 12, you end up combining those and putting them together. So you have, an 8-year-old playing against a 12-year-old, and it's like, that just doesn't make any sense. So that's what's going on. And it's really sad, because what that means is kids stop playing sports at a very young age. And because they feel like they're so far behind, by the time they get to high school, they're not playing sports, unless they're one of the best athletes at the school. And so what you end up with is this situation where a whole demographic of kids are turning to other places for, for organized activity. And where they're going they're turning to their phones, they're turning to the internet, and they're spending time on games like Roblox or games like Minecraft. And I'm not knocking them, but they are the equivalent of what I would call the kids that used to go down and hang out at the 7-Eleven, or the kids that would go and just skate and not really have any what I call mentorship. By playing sports that I played at the level I played, I got to have mentorship till I was 27 years old. I had a coach, I had teammates, I had people pushing me, helping me along the way. When you do things like Roblox or Minecraft, there's no organization to it. When there's not an organized system out there to mentor you and help you and coach you along the way. And so what I saw with Perfect Storm, the opportunity was to take all the benefits of online, or all the benefits of organized physical sports, and take it online. And I think that that's still an opportunity, because and the biggest reason it's such a great opportunity is it's everyone can do it. Every kid, as long as they have a phone or a computer or access to it, they can go and play an online game, as long as the infrastructure's there. And there's nothing stopping me from saying, hey, I'll be a coach for that team and have 10 kids that are my son's age get together and play an online game together and have me coach them. And so all the benefits you get from playing online, you can get, or from playing offline, you can get a lot of them online. And in a lot of ways, it actually can be even better, because offline, in the real world, your size, your athleticism can really make it so that a lot of kids feel left out, and they don't then get to develop the mental capacity to compete. And in the workplace, your size, your physique, your skill doesn't matter. What matters is your ability to work with others. What matters is your ability to, be a leader, your ability to have a growth mindset, your ability to look at situations and find the opportunities and win.
Yeah.
And so with online gaming, you have all those same opportunities, and you're not hindered by your size, your strength, your physical prowess. And so it opens that opportunity up to a massive audience of kids that you don't have with physical sports.
Yeah, it's a very interesting take, and thanks for sharing that. It's kind of like what used to be the one route that was an option to be in something structured where you can really, grow and organize competition. It was almost like anything else was just sort of thrown to the side as far as maybe hobbies that kids had. And this is basically organizing and legitimizing this route that might be best for certain people. And it's clearly a massive industry today to go down gaming. Yeah.
If you look at and Elon Musk actually said it, I don't know, a few months ago. He said, what do you look for when you're hiring engineers? He's like, honestly, I look for gamers or like engineers that have gaming experience. And, when I got to know Bill more and hear his story, he was playing EverQuest and World of Warcraft. And at the age of 14, he was running 150-person guild from people from all over the world. And I was like, at age 14, I was playing water polo and tennis and soccer, but like, I wasn't organizing raids.
Yeah.
I wasn't like bringing people together, telling them what role to play. All I had to do was show up on time, work my ass off, and that was enough.
Yeah.
But to have to think about statistics and like, the different strategies you can do to approach a raid and who should do what, and then recruit people, and it's like, wow, it's so much more real life experience than what I was doing. But it's so funny because today, I could be like, oh yeah, I played water polo at Stanford, and Bill could be like, I was the top 0.1% of players on World of Warcraft, and be like, okay, cool, man. It's like people don't understand how hard that is and how many skills that requires you to have.
Yeah.
And how much better, honestly, that prepares you to be an entrepreneur, and how much better that prepares you for the workplace.
That's so interesting. Yeah, because there's certainly some leadership aspects that you just mentioned in there as well.
Yep.
Okay, so wow, yeah, that's very interesting stuff. And with Perfect Storm, what's next for you?
Yeah, so Perfect Storm, given that we're building like a very high-end game now, the original plan was to build like a Web3 product, and that's kind of like move fast and build. And what we realized was that we needed to actually build a great game, and that's what we always wanted to do, was build a great game that'd be really fun. And so the development process is going to take longer, and as a result, I'm not going to need to go from operations into marketing, because we're not going to need to do marketing for a while. And so I talked to Bill, and we basically made the decision that in January I'll be stepping away, and so right now I'm actually in the process of setting up that next thing. So for me, what I plan on doing is actually, as weird as it sounds, I plan on doing nothing.
Okay.
I have been running full speed for the last, my whole life.
Right.
From high school to the national team to working to having 3 kids to moving to San Diego. It's and I have a wife that works full time as well. And when you do that, it's hard to have perspective.
Yeah.
And I am going to take the time to get some perspective, and basically what that means is I'm going to probably do a little bit of consulting and advisory work for marketing for different companies,
Nice.
with the goal of spending as much time as possible with my kids while they're young. I've got a 4-year-old, a 2-year-old, and a 4-month-old, all boys. And I want to spend a lot of time with them.
Busy house.
Yeah, 2023 is going to be a year of spending time with my kids, sharing with them new experiences, developing a really strong bond with them in the same level that like I have with my dad, and my brother and I have together, and kind of working on that with them, and figuring out what if and what I want to do. I whether I'm going to do a full-time role I don't know. But I think most likely I'll probably start my own company at some point. But for now, I'm going to focus on doing advisory work, helping companies grow through the knowledge that I have that I gained at Lyft and Masterclass and Penn National, and basically help them. And then at the same time, really focus on my family.
That's awesome, man. I'm really happy to hear you doing that. You certainly deserve it, and it's only gonna open up your creative state that much more, right? To step away. Not to mention the benefits of being with your family and taking a breath.
Yeah, I mean like we talked about in the beginning, you go through stages in life, and it's really important to notice when a stage has changed.
Mm-hmm.
And when that stage changes, it's really important to really evaluate what your why is or what your real mission is.
Yeah.
Because what got you from one stage to the next isn't necessarily going to work for that next stage in your life.
Mm-hmm.
Like there was a stage in life where it was about making money, and then there was a stage in life about advancing my career or learning or growing in the best be the best marketer I could possibly be. And then there's a stage where it's like, okay, I'm gonna work on investing and like get a stable cash flow system going.
Mm-hmm.
And then I have kids, and if I keep focusing on those same things, then guess what? My ideal relationship with my kids and my family unit doesn't end up progressing in the way that I want, because I'm still focused on the wrong priorities.
Right.
So, I've spent a lot of time just kind of set up a system, but I need to actually spend a much longer time this year, like really setting up what is that system I'm going to use to, what is my North Star now, and what am I really focused on for the next 5-10 years of my life.
Yep. No, that's awesome. Yeah, well, it's been a hell of a journey, man. That's awesome. This is probably a hard question, but if you're able to pick a highlight of your career or a most memorable experience, it could be something general that has come up multiple times. It could be a specific time. What would you talk about?
This one's really easy for me. And it has to do with, so my answer is contributing to others' lives.
Mm-hmm.
Specifically being a catalyst in their life to change their stars. So when I was at right before I was at Lyft, I was doing some consulting work, and picked up a couple of clients to help them with performance marketing. That turned into them referring me to more people, and I ended up hiring a guy named Todd. And Todd, I hope Todd's listening to this, because I don't know if he realizes how much this meant to me. Todd was working for my mom part-time at a junior college. And he had just gotten let go because the reshuffling of finances in the junior college. And my mom was like, you should hire him. I was like, I'm not building a company. I'm like doing consulting and like on the side. She's like, and at that time I was reading a book that was like basically a book that said you should say yes to things if you don't have a good reason to say no.
Yeah.
I was like, okay. So I met him for lunch, and I was like, wow, he is a really good kid and he seems smart. Sure. I'm going to hire you. I'll pick up another client. We'll make it work.
Mm-hmm.
I hired him, paid him $40,000 a year, and taught him everything that I knew about performance marketing. How to do ASO, how to do media buying. ASO is SEO, but for the App Store. And gave him a bunch of clients to work on. And, within a year, so after 6 months with me, I was like, Todd, I can't do this. I'm having a kid. I'm like, my son's being born. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
I'm gonna have to let you go. I'm closing down the business. He ended up. I helped him, interview, find his next role. His next role, he was making $100,000. The next role after that, he was making $120,000. And so, like, seeing him be able to support his wife and his kids, because he had just had a kid right when he started working with me.
Yeah.
And he grew up without like a relationship with his father, but seeing that I could take somebody who was making very low money hourly, part time, give him a $40,000 job that allowed him to like get stability, teach him the skills that I know, so that he can then go and support his family.
Yeah.
Was definitely the highlight of my career. Now he's living in East Bay. he's got 2 kids, and he's doing well. And, just being able to see that I could do that, be that big of a catalyst and help him that much just really, really meant a lot to me. And then that's the mentality I took into Masterclass, and all the people that I worked with at Masterclass, I was able to, double most of their salaries within 2 or 3 years, just from the fact that I was able to work with them and help them and teach them what I know. And
wow.
but yeah, it's definitely those people, and I would say, like, I have a handful. I wish that I could have 20. I wish I could say, like, man, these people, like, look at what I helped do for them. It's not just introducing them to somebody. It's like, oh, I made that connection for them.
Yeah.
It's, for me, it's investing the time.
Yep.
And teaching them the things that and giving them the skills to go out and fish themselves,
Man, that's incredible, and it's so real. I know it's true because I was one of them. You helped me to get that one of my first internships. I think it was my first paid internship, and I've certainly come a long way in terms of my professionalism from those days, but I learned a lot just in that summer working with you. So that's such a cool story. But man, that's awesome. If you were to look back, we're gonna wrap up soon here, but if you had to pick your highlight and your biggest challenge of 2022, we're recording this in December 2022, would you be able to share what those are? It's a tough one. Everyone gets stumped on this one.
So the tough part is that 2022 for me, if I were to summarize it, it's been a tough year for me because, like I said, I'm in this stage where I'm kind of searching. And although I was the CEO of Perfect Storm and then CMO over there for a little bit, I'm still searching. Like, the company, I didn't start the company. I'm not a gamer. I love the idea of helping to create organized sports within online to give access to everybody to the same benefits I got from playing sports.
Yeah.
But it's not my why. It's not what would get me up in the morning. And so I've been searching for that, but at the same time, doing my job. And so when I say what's the highlight, I actually look to other areas of my life, not my career. I look to a trip that I took my son to Hawaii, my oldest to Hawaii, and reconnected with, or hung out and played with our cousins.
Yeah.
So I look at that as my highlights in terms of, if I were to say what's a success I had, it feels trivial. It's like, great, we were able to find great talent outside the U.S. because talent in the U.S. is crazy expensive for engineers and game designers. So we were able to find people outside the U.S. to build that team that we need to build a great game. But that's a success. But I would say, like, even more so, I think I gravitate back to, I'm more excited about the opportunity that I was able to give them to work for a U.S. company, to see what it's like to up-level their own career by adding that to their resume, and then being able to then take that and do whatever with it, whether it's staying at Perfect Storm or going on to another company. Just having that U.S. company experience helps. So I don't know if I'd say that I have, like, a great highlight that's work-related, but because it's a building time, we didn't launch a game, and so it's hard to really say anything in this year, but
it could be personal.
Yeah, I would say it'd be more personal, just connecting with my kids, and I would say, like, probably the biggest, if I were to point at the biggest one, this is my career. I'm pulling at strings, trying to figure out what I want to do there, but I feel the strongest, like, wins and the most conviction for the relationship I'm starting to build with my son. And it's so weird for me because that isn't clear. There's no winning. There's no number of goals I need to score, or no salary I need to get.
Yeah.
and winning there is so hard to define.
Yeah.
It's in the smiles and the hugs and the affection that you feel and the love you feel for each other. And that's what I would say that I really feel is the biggest success is recognizing and that's my purpose right now, to be a dad. I was a soccer coach this last season. I took him to Taekwondo and we were training together. And it's just, it's I would say my biggest win is definitely familial, not career-wise.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's a great answer. And honestly, one of my intentions with this, I've said this on, I think, every show so far, talking to people who've had journeys, that have been very dynamic. It's not easy, right? And 2022 has universally been a difficult year for a lot of people. I think we are still going through a transition, a lot of us, into figuring out how we go full speed again into what we're trying to do in all ways of life, right? So, yeah, that's a great answer, man. I'm going to end it just with a couple fun, quick questions.
Okay.
But if you could mention one entrepreneurial life hack that is different from the mainstream belief, what would you pick?
This one's easy for me. I developed a framework for success that I called my house. I don't have a good name for it. I'm in marketing, so I should have a good name for it, but it's my house for living a fulfilling life. It's the 6 F's. With a house, right? You've got your foundation, you've got your 4 walls, and you've got your roof. Everybody's like, Simon Sinek will say, find your why, and that'll like sort everything out. I actually don't think that's the case. I think as a dad or as a man or as a woman, like, you have different hats you wear in life. Mm-hmm. And each one of those things you're doing, you want to do the best in it. You want to grow. You want to contribute more. But so what I did is I said, okay, well, what are those things that you need to do? And so I set up this house framework so I can remember it. So the foundation is your fertility. It's your health. It's your vitality. It's how do you feel? It's your, are you working out? Are you staying healthy? Are you eating well? Are you, are you in shape? Yeah. Without that, it's very hard to do well in the rest of your life if you're like constantly struggling with your health, if you're sick all the time, as an example. Mm-hmm. Then the 4 walls are, I have as your fun, your function, your faith, and your fun, function, faith, and let me just give me a second.
Is it another F? Family?
It is another F. Family.
There
Nailed
we go. Nice.
So those are all really important, right? And each of those have a different metric for success, right? I'm not going to go and have a great family by saying I'm going to make a lot of money. It's like, no, that's a different thing. Having a great family means spending quality time together. It means having dinner together. It means going on a date with your wife every week or every other week. It means making sure you're taking time for vacation with them. It means, spending time over Christmas. Like, that's family. Yeah. Whereas your functions, like, what are you doing for your work? Like, what are you doing for your main job, or, to put food on the table, to provide for your family? And what is that? So, and then, your faith is like, what are you doing spirituality wise? Like, you have to have some spiritual sense, whether it's meditation, whether you're a yogi or you're a Christian or Jewish, like having some level of faith, is important. Yeah. And then, the last one, fun. You got to have a day where you take time for fun. You got to have something where it's like, I make sure that once a month I go and do something for me. That doesn't have to do with work, doesn't have to. And so then the roof of the house is financials. Mm-hmm. So like, you can't do all of those things. You can't focus on your family, your faith, your fun, your function if like you're constantly trying to like you can't make ends meet. So you have to have a financial system in place, and you have to have metrics for success for finance that allows you to actually manage to spend time on those other things. So my life hack is figure out what is your metric for success for your 6 F's, and just write it down. So for me, family is quality time with my kids when I'm fully focused. And that's like saying, like, I need to have at least 1 hour a day where that's the case. And if I'm not doing that, it's not successful. So having those metrics and then being able to mind shift or being able to be in that mode and going from one to the next, that's something that's super important. And the only way to do that is so you have your success, but the only way to do that is every Sunday you got to spend at least an hour planning your week. Mm-hmm. and then every night you got to spend another 15 minutes planning your day the next day.
Yeah.
If you don't do that, then you'll roll into the week, you'll roll into the day completely like trying to figure stuff out and playing catch up. Whereas if you take the time to plan, you can be like, no, I'm going to wake up at 6, I'm going to go for my run, then I'm going to have my like smoothie or my oatmeal, and then I'm going to like play with my kids for an hour and get them ready for school, and then take them to school, and then I'm going to get into my function, do that, and then I'll spend an hour on my finances before my kids get home from school.
Yeah. And
so like you have to have a plan.
Yep.
And you have to do it every single week and then every single evening.
Nice. Well, you guys heard it there. This is good advice. Thomas, last question. Who is someone you think I should interview?
I think somebody that you should interview is a close friend of mine, and mentor. I have a couple. I would say Ali Jamal would probably be my first. He is, the reason I say that is because he was able to, do performance marketing and turn his career into the thing that he loves. Mm-hmm. He loves investing in companies. Mm-hmm. And so he started a syndicate, and now he runs his own syndicate, and he's building a fund now. But he moved to Puerto Rico, and this was the guy that got me the job at Rock U and got me started on my marketing path. But Ali Jamal is somebody that he's a close friend of mine, and he's just a wealth of knowledge, and somebody that I think that would be great for your podcast.
Nice. Well, thank you, and I'll follow up on how to get in touch with him.
Nice.
All right, Thomas. Thanks so much, man. Great conversation. I'm stoked to see what you come up with next, and for your time closer with your family coming up soon here.
Yeah, and if anybody wants to get in touch with me, the best way is LinkedIn. I'm not really on Twitch. I'm not really on Twitter.
No TikTok, Thomas?
TikTok. I just started a TikTok account 2 days ago. And I'm doing it to whenever I find a cool life hack or something that's like, I'm just putting it on there. So
okay.
Yeah, so I do have a TikTok now. So
all right.
I'm hip.
All right, but LinkedIn, Thomas Hopkins.
LinkedIn, just find me on LinkedIn. LinkedIn.com/in/ I think it's thopkins11.
Perfect.
So,
all right, Thomas. Thank you, man. Great to see you.
Thanks, Chris.
All right, bye, everybody. Thank you for joining our conversation today on the Nichols and Dimes Show. Please check out and follow my podcast Instagram at Nichols and Dimes Show. I'd love to have you subscribe to the show on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. You can also find it on my website. I welcome and encourage any feedback you can share in the reviews so I can continue to improve and develop the show. Thanks again, and see you next time.